Live from the Vegas studios. I got a crooked mic. It's the Weekend Geek update. Holy crap. Everything's falling apart in the studio. It's been a while since we've been in here. Smurf here. You can tell Suzi's here. One of our sponsors. Our other sponsors, Mr. Matt Campbell, Mythica from Action Line Studios, and, of course, the amazing, the ever-talented video wizard, Vadim.
Hello.
You okay over there? I think you busted a gut.
I'm okay.
I know. You missed the whole conversation before we started. I'm talking about, like, mishaps in studios and, like, my mic, and just all of a sudden it just goes, just. I got a limp mic.
Oh, my God.
It's been a while. How is everyone?
Oh, my God.
Between traveling the country for cons and doing the stuff alone and Colorado Festival of Horror stuff.
Oh,
but we're back.
we are back. I was telling someone just last week.
Right.
I was trying to explain what it is that we do, and I was like, "Yeah, we left the house in July, and we just got home like 2 weeks ago."
Yeah, I mean, we have not been back,
No.
and it is very weird.
It is very weird. I'm glad. I had a blast when we were out on the road, but I'm glad to be home now.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. We saw so much stuff. Oh my
We
gosh.
did.
We saw. What are
Move
you
that closer to
doing?
your mouth.
So I can hit myself in the face with it?
Well, I'm not saying you need to headbutt the microphone, but you just need to be at least a little bit closer to it. Oddly enough, you're
how's
like too
that?
far away. That's better. See? That's normal.
We're out of practice. I'm out of practice.
It's okay. So when you're trying to explain what we do to people,
I was at an appointment and they were making small talk and they're like, "Oh, what kind of work do you do?" And I answer, "Well, I make chainmail," and that just brings everything to a screeching halt, right? And they look up and they're like armor? Yeah, I do that too. And then we do this pop culture podcast where we mostly just laugh at each other and argue about Star Wars. And that's how I explain what we do. I'm usually a little more eloquent about it, but that's kind of...
that's the tall and the short of it, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in our first answer to that question is, well, what day of the week is it?
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing, and it gets a little muddy for us.
It does.
To explain what we do.
Because there's...
Vadim's easy. He's like, I take pictures and I make videos and everybody loves me. And we're like, yes, we do.
It's okay for you to be offended by that.
He's so used to it. We were at the food event for Westward the other night, and him and I are just cutting up, and it was just great. Actually, I've missed Vadim because we haven't seen him since Festival of Horror,
right.
And it feels like it's been forever. It's only been a month.
It does seem like it's been
feels
forever.
like forever, right? So Vadim and I being able to hang out for a while and make fun of each other, and we have to do our Vadim voice because...
Why do I sound like an old Italian?
I don't know.
Because I'm awful at Russian. Sorry. So I don't even know where we left off with all the listeners because I've kind of kept people in the loop.
Right.
There's things that I have specifically not spoken of because...
Because it was so ridiculous.
Because it was so ridiculous, and I'm like, I need you here to like have a sounding board so I don't sound like some raving lunatic.
Oh my God.
Which, let's face it, I mean, even when you're here, I sound like a raving lunatic.
Yeah, it's true.
But Suzi and my pocket lunatic. Light my hair on fire, and I go down and I bother the villagers. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, we've just been like, I can't even remember the last time I was here on.
It's only
on the
been
show.
a month, which
Has
is the sad.
really?
It's really,
Oh
it's
my God.
it's realistically been about a month, which is hard to believe.
I still sometimes if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm still not 100% sure where I am. I mean, that was a marathon.
That was an amazing marathon.
Was a marathon.
New York was a lot of fun.
Yes.
We had a very interesting brush with celebrity. We're walking down 34th Street away from the convention center. Suzi and Jeremy are in front of me, and out of this nondescript building on the side of the street. You would think that it's a homeless shelter.
Well, it was just a building. It wasn't decrepit or anything. But
No.
It was very nondescript.
It was very nondescript. And then out of this building comes
Bono.
He was literally within arm's reach.
Yes.
You could have touched him.
He walked right in front of me. The best part about that story, though, is that I made a nonverbal noise because it was shocking to me to have Bono literally cross my path.
Right.
And so Jeremy, not knowing what was going on, held on to me harder because he thought I was in distress or something. And so I couldn't get loose to go running up on Bono in the dark on we were on 37th Street, not 34th, which probably would have been pretty terrifying.
Well, and to be fair, I'm behind you guys. So I see all of this unfold in front of me. Like, all of a sudden, Jeremy tenses up. My eyes dart between the two of you, and I look up casually just to see Bono look at like he's the Sasquatch. It's like this rare Sasquatch sighting.
Like we caught him. Although
it's the Bono sighting where he's just kind of like making his move. Trying to make sure that there's no paparazzi, that TMZ is not capturing his photo, unbeknownst to him. And it is hilarious that he just looks at us and then just dives into this car.
Goes about, and it was milliseconds.
It was.
Like whole thing, the whole encounter. If it was 3 entire seconds, that would have been an eternity. It was so
snap,
so fast, and we were just walking. The other part I like about that is, my son lives in New York, and so we were visiting with him, and I said, "Oh, Eric, we saw Bono last night," and he's like, "Yeah, Mom, people live here."
Wow, so dismissive. It's like, yeah, hey.
Well, I mean, I know.
I saw Bob yesterday. Like, okay.
I know people live here, but we're because of the differences between New York City and Denver, we're unlikely to just have Bono walk out of a building in front of us here.
Yeah,
so
it's common hat to just run into Elway or some of the sports figures.
Right.
But, actually, that's not true. I've run into Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn a number of times.
Well, again, that's different because they live here.
But, yeah, we don't get all that often. We're not a destination location for celebrities.
It's different. Like, if you're in Telluride or if you're in Aspen, that's a more common situation. But here in town, where we spend most of our time, it doesn't happen.
Nope.
The venues are so far from the hotels that everybody's shuttled around in cars and vans, and so it's just not likely to happen. And what I figured out way after the fact, Bono was on a book tour. He had just put out a book. And so
Bono can write?
I'm sure he can. So I suspect that was a gallery of some kind, or there was a sign indicating that it might have been a talent management company there that we saw in the daylight, because that was on our regular path. We weren't just lurking around there waiting to see Bono again.
Being all skeevy.
Right. Can I touch your giant sunglasses?
They're so much bigger than your head.
So I think that it might have had something to do, that encounter might have had something to do with his book tour or whatever. But it was just so shocking. But we were coming off of kind of a shocking moment anyway, because that was mere moments after the coffee shower.
Yes. We're wandering around the convention center.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Wandering around the convention center, completely, non-hostile. We're just soaking everything in.
We'd set up the Suzi Q's booth, sent Eric off to work. We were on our way out for the evening.
And they're still unloading. We're right by the Whatnot Armada. I mean, Whatnot's location is a fort.
It is.
And we're walking around it just to kind of check things out. And as we're standing there, there's stuff getting carted in and out, and there's this forklift and all of that. And then all of a sudden, there's this pop noise. and all of a sudden this liquid launches into the air. Again, I am behind these two, but Suzi somehow, miraculously, in the pop and projectile of liquid, was able to spin completely around to cover herself completely in coffee.
Oh my God. So I did not see the coffee cups on the floor. And
None of us did.
And I do not mean to imply that it was Whatnot's.
Because it caught 3 boobies. Let's be frank. 3 boobies got caught in that trap.
But I stopped because there was a forklift driving backwards, and the forklift driver didn't see the coffee cups. They were Starbucks cups. The coffee was not hot. It was room temperature.
Yeah, lukewarm at best.
So the forklift driver was turned all the way around, and he didn't see it either. And I didn't see anything but the forklift. All of a sudden, in true Suzi fashion, I'm like drenched in coffee. Now I'm sticky, and the only thing I could think to say is, "Why am I wet?" There's coffee dripping from my face, dripping from my hair. Jeremy says it was all over my back.
It was.
And then the forklift driver stops. I don't know what he...
Well, he heard that pop noise, and he probably was a little concerned of, okay, what did I just skish?
And he turns around, and I'm standing there like this, just soaked in coffee.
So awesome.
It seriously is dripping out of my eyelashes.
So awesome.
And this poor man just looks like he has done this to me. And he
Well,
kind of did.
Inadvertently, it is
But it
his
was
fault.
totally accidental.
Yes.
And so he pulls out, this is no lie, Vadim, he pulls out this Costco-sized package of napkins from under
forklift.
the seat in his forklift. Like, the
Go gadget
situation
napkin.
wasn't weird enough. It was a whole, like, it was this huge package of napkins. And so...
Apparently that happens a lot.
Well, that's what we thought. We're like, okay.
So Jeremy and Surf are like pulling napkins out of this, trying to get, and I'm just standing there like I've been shot or something. I can't even move.
It's like the scene in Carrie where she just got drenched and she just doesn't know what to do. So I'm just waiting for Suzi's head to spin.
Oh
Jeremy's
my gosh.
trying to like pad him and her off. And I'm just like, this is just some fucked up shit is what this is.
The poor forklift driver, he's like, "Are you okay? Did you get burned? What happened?"
The one pissed off thing about this story is none of the Whatnot people did shit.
No.
They just all sat there and like,
Somebody,
that was it.
I don't know if it was them, but somebody left a Venti Starbucks on the floor in a construction zone, and yeah,
that thing is damn near full.
it was.
And Suzi can attest to that because she was wearing most of it.
My jacket still smells like coffee.
She came over to me yesterday over in the studio. Does it smell like coffee to you? And I'm like, no. Because I think it's just stuck in your
It
brain.
was my brand new leather jacket
It was
too.
your
It was
brand
the
new leather
first time
jacket.
I wore it. Well,
good.
it's not leather. It's
Well, yes,
plastic,
we're environmentally aware.
we are. Well, I am.
You are.
You.
I'm harder with my clothes than you are.
Well, yeah.
Although I'm not going to dance in a coffee shower.
Oh my God. That was, moments before we'd been taking our picture with the giant Totoro. We were talking about what we're going to have for dinner. We were
Talking to other vendors.
Yeah.
We were making our master plan.
we were leaving.
We were leaving.
And then, then we come up on Bono in the dark, smelling like coffee. I'm sticky. I don't. Well, I don't.
You don't do sticky.
I don't do sticky. So I'm walking around doing
Wet or
this because my hand. I'm pulling wet wipes out of my purse. It was high comedy. It was
So
high
good.
comedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, we didn't really hang out with anyone. Neil was a little more elusive than, but he had a full docket in front of him.
He did. I just couldn't. The day that they were available, we were experiencing some illness issues, and Jeremy was close to having a panic attack, and I thought you were dying. And
I damn near did die, okay? I'm just telling you.
I watched him turn green. I don't know if you've ever seen that happen. I don't know what happened to him. He came in to the booth a little late. He called me. He's like, I'm going to be late. I'm not feeling so great. And then he comes in and he's already a little pale. But it just, like, he sat down and I watched, it came up from his neck. I just watched him turn green. And I was like, you have to leave now.
I was a mess.
You have to go. If you don't think you can get back to your hotel room on your own, tell me now. We'll put you in a car. If you think you're dying, tell me now. I'll take you to the hospital.
There were some doubts.
But you can't be here anymore.
To this day, I am still uncertain what it was that put me in that shape, because you and I ate pretty much
the same
things.
Yeah.
The only thing that was different was I had an extra piece of pizza and I had another thing of coffee when Tony came by the booth, and him and I went to go reminisce.
I think I had the only umbrella, and it was raining when we walked over there, and I feel like your coffee cup got full of New York City rainwater.
Which
that
could be a thing.
Is my hunch.
That is the only thing that differs from our...
Yeah.
Because I had the same ice cream, I had the same pizza, I had the same... I mean,
right.
Everything. Breakfast.
Yeah, we eat the same food when
Yep.
we're out there. Yes, that is our secret. We're very boring, and we eat the same food over and over again.
So I disappear for basically a day and a half because...
You're dying.
I'm dying. Like, literally, I am at death's door. So I go back to the hotel room and I sleep for... I didn't even get my clothes off. I'm done. I'm on the bed all day, all night to the next morning, and I'm still like...
I'm sorry.
Don't know what that was. I don't even want to know.
Poor Red got a play-by-play. Like, she's like, is Smurf dying? Because I'm getting some gross text messages.
Yeah, I'm just like... It was not pleasant.
So anyway, I didn't feel like I could go see the Sandman panel when you were dying and Jeremy was just panicking from the sheer number of people.
It was full, and even just from not only what I saw on my stumbling out the door, and from other vendors and retailers, and we've had other stories that came in, Sunday was busier than Saturday.
Sunday was busier than Saturday. That's the first time in our whole history, the whole history of Suzi Q's, that we did more... We did almost as much on Sunday as we did on Saturday.
The crowds were impressive. New York Comic Con, I think tentative numbers is 163,000. Is that what we heard the final count was, or was it more?
No, it was more. It was over. I believe it was over 2. There were
200,000 people.
There were a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people there.
And we had our interactions with Mark Silvestri.
Well, because if you remember their early projections, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine.
Their early projections were 260.
Yes.
And I feel very strongly that they left that way behind.
It was massive.
It was massive.
It was more massive than I have remembered in the last few years. Last year, it wasn't nearly that big.
Well, Javits just completed that extension. So we were in...
the new annex.
We were in the new extension, and I want to say that was like... My numbers could be totally wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I feel like it was like 400,000 square feet, an additional 400,000 square feet. It was a huge addition. And... I was just, we do this all the time. We do this all the time, and I've never seen anything like what we experienced in New York.
It was nuts. So,
yeah.
We got to go hang out with Mark Silvestri for a while.
Yeah.
Who is...
rad.
Absolutely rad. And just, like, the most casual, like, person. We sat in line for a while, okay? And it's fine. Nerds in lines, we get it. But we get up to Mark, and I've had interactions with Mark in the past, and I have this Wolverine statue that's based on an X-Men cover, where he's turning into a Brute. And Mark and I have talked about this extensively because I want him to sign it. But I lucked out in finding the Silvestri Batman black and white statue.
Yeah.
Which Silvestri wasn't even supposed to be there.
No.
That statue is impossible to find because of breakages and short ships. So we go down there and have him sign it. And I kid you not, what was it, 15, 20 minutes? Of him sitting there shaking his pen?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It took him a long time to get ready.
He's just sitting there. How you guys doing? Yeah.
And we were towards the back of the line.
Yeah.
But, you can't use a Sharpie on a statue. Like, it's a whole different thing.
Whole different thing.
It was fine.
It was fun. And we're hearing about his lunch.
Yeah. Which was apparently not satisfactory.
No. He wasn't happy. But out of his mouth, rumors, time to feed the rumor mill, he is talking about coming to Denver next year. So
Yes, he is. The worst part of that line for me was that dude who geek checked us about
that nerd?
Zeb Wells.
some weird rando dude sitting there eating his lunch. And
At Zeb's table.
At Zeb's
Zeb
table.
wasn't there that day. I
No.
think that was Sunday.
Yes.
So Zeb had been and had gone because he has, other commitments. And this guy is like stuffing chicken tenders in his mouth. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know Zeb was going to be here." And the guy's like, he looks at me, he's like, "I'm not Zeb Wells." I know.
Yeah, we both go, "We know."
I know you are not Zeb Wells. That's okay. And he's going on and on.
He's
And
going on about She-Hulk.
I
And like, you
know.
need to watch it because Zeb had a hand in it. We're like,
I know.
okay.
I know. I don't understandably respond to that scenario very well.
No.
And it was very hard. I was very tired. I was very overstimulated at that point, and it was a big effort for me not to just like punch him.
Eat some chicken tenders.
Just. It was close. It was close. I mean, I know I don't look like I'm very scary or intimidating, but I was.
Like hell, you're coming over a table while I got a chicken finger in my mouth? I'm fearing for my life. I'm making peace with God, like, oh, this is how it ends. Ah!
Yeah, it was just, and then the guy in front of us geek checked me too, which I'm pleased to say that
assholes.
doesn't actually happen very often to me, but it does happen, and it's just like, now I'm like,
It was just so random with those guys.
I know.
But yeah, Sylvester didn't have like a whole lot to sell. He didn't have any comics. He didn't have any of the new Batmans that came out last week. So it was just like, all right. But I got my statue signed. So
But it was fun to
one
talk
last
with
thing.
him.
It was fun to talk to him. I love talking to Sylvester. I'm glad that he remembers me, and I'm happy that if what he's saying is true, he comes to Denver.
Right.
I have to sit down and talk to Sylvester.
I'll miss it.
I know, you're going to be in Florida.
I'm going to be in Florida.
I will be here. Maybe. We'll see. Deals to be announced later. Speaking of things coming up, Suzi is holding her open house December 3rd from 2 to 6 p.m. here in the studio. So if you are interested, go to 5280 Geeks website, the Facebook page, or SuziQs.com to get the address, the location. Come by, hang out with us, see Suzi's office, and you're going to have wares available,
Oh,
right?
we are. Red and I and my friend Marcy Lundy from 303 Face and Body we're all going to have a little holiday soiree, yeah. Well, is it still a soiree if it's in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Isn't soiree specifically afternoon?
soiree was specifically evening.
No.
Yeah.
We're late. I mean, it gets dark quicker. I mean, let's have it dark at 4 p.m. No one ever said.
So yeah, we're gonna put up our booths. We're gonna have everybody's got a holiday special that's going to be available only here. So come and see us and have a little drink and a little nosh and
Yeah.
come see what we've got.
Matt will be on the door. I will be at the
Matt
bar.
will be on the door.
Vadim's going to wander around with mistletoe, see if he can get a date.
Oh,
You want to smooch from the
so
sexy,
yeah,
eligible
if you want to
Vadim,
smooch Vadim, come
There you
on
go.
down.
he will put the swore in the soiree. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I have to show up.
Vadim's like, well, shit, I guess I know what I'm doing now. What else? So, speaking of New York and Sandman and all of that, and it comes as no small surprise, Sandman Season 2 has been renewed. The trailer is absolutely just haunting with the dream helm coming up, and
My favorite thing ever.
yep.
My favorite thing ever.
You watched it finally. What did you think?
Oh, I loved it.
You never read the comics, though, did you?
I did, actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I finished the whole series, but I read like the first 4 or 5 at least.
Okay.
I need to get back to it.
Yes, you
But
do.
yeah, I love the show.
You may not have to get back to it. We don't even know what they're going to cover for season 2. I'm very curious to see what they where they go.
I feel like either through intention or through accident, season 1 followed pretty closely the same stories, the same part of the story that they told in the Audible audio adaptation.
Yep.
For Volume 1. So also while we were in New York, Volume 3 of the audio adaptation came out early, and there were ads for that all over the place. And Audible did this pop-up immersive encounter in this gallery, and that was extraordinary. Jeremy and I got to see that. That was the day you were dying, and it was incredible. You go in, and they kind of have you lined up, and then the satyr comes out. I don't know if you remember, there's kind of a one-off story.
Kind of like the cat story.
Kind of like the cat story.
Integrated later.
And they're talking about the satyrs from mythology, and a satyr comes out, and then they usher you into this room, and it is a complete immersion into this art experience there. The first section is you walk into Orpheus's dream before he gets married, and he's talking to Orpheus and Morpheus. That's a little but it was extraordinary, and they were encouraging people to take pictures, and of course they were using the Audible soundtrack, so Neil Gaiman's narrating, and at one point you walk into Despair's realm, and that was
can't wait to get more into Despair.
that was unbelievable. It was I don't even have the words, but they had this really neat effect where they had panels hanging from, like, mirror frames hanging from the ceiling, and there was some kind of projection against the back wall, but you could only see the projection if you looked through the frames.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, they had, fabric on the walls and actors pushing their hands and faces through the fabric as you go into this room. And then, if you remember from the comics, Morpheus and Delirium go on a road trip in search of destruction, and they end up in a strip club, and so there was this little vignette about that, but the dancer was covered in mirrors like a disco ball.
Ooh, spectacular.
It was phenomenal. It really, as you all know, I am a huge Sandman fan. I love everything having to do with Sandman, and so getting to experience that was just unreal. Like, everything about it was unreal.
Right, because I know, and I feel bad because with everything that happened, I wasn't able to go over and meet Mason Alexander Park, who has done a spectacular job. They are also on Quantum Leap.
Yes.
And I actually really impressed with their acting skill, and I want to talk to them.
Yes.
I'm absolutely, and how convincing they are in Sandman as Desire, and it's just...
It was amazing.
It is amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah, everything about that was phenomenal. And there were so many great Sandman cosplays, too. We met a young man who built the helmet for his brother. This young man is a costume fabricator, and so kind of imposes on his family members to wear the costumes that he makes.
Just a little bit.
There was this beautiful young woman dressed as Kirby's iteration of Death, and I met her at the art exhibit, and then she came to the booth the next day. I saw Delirium. I've posted pictures of that on my Instagram. It was very present. There was a lot of Sandman buzz, which is great because, for many years it's been a if you know, you know kind of a thing. I mean, it's huge, and lots of people did know about it, but it wasn't as present as it was this past convention.
Nope. So we'll stop boring you with Sandman. We will anxiously await season 2. And Good Omens.
Good Omens.
Good Omens is lurking right around the corner, but we will wait for that to land because so much. While we were away, we did get a lot of messages. I responded to you that I could. I apologize if I have not gotten to you yet, but I will. But there was one question that came through that I wanted to throw out. I'm not going to go through the whole letter, but it was building off of something that I had said about. I was talking about someone who went down like a champ.
Okay.
You know, that it's the final moment, and you know, it's death, so they die. So in that realm, they asked this question: what death scene in a movie has been the most touching or impactful for you?
Oh my gosh.
Which is, I mean, that is an excellent question.
It is
so
an excellent
thank you.
question.
Anyone's got questions, DM me, send it through the Facebook page.
Yeah.
But I had like two immediately pop to mind.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to, everyone's going to laugh at the first one.
Okay.
Death of Optimus Prime.
Oh my God, you're such a nerd.
I know, but oh my God. You're like, Optimus Prime just died. And you got to think, little wee me just saw Legend, the ultimate Autobot leader. Huzzah. Done. Dead. Gray. Dust. Oh, what's happening?
Did you cry? Did you get misty?
I maybe have got. I mean,
Did
that
you
was
get a little?
So
Did you get a little?
long ago. I mean, I wasn't like. I really wasn't like a wee me.
No,
but,
I know.
I mean, I'm short anyway. But I mean, it was still kind of like, oh my God, because they routed the Autobots. Of course,
Right.
the licensing and all of that. And if
Right,
you haven't watched
right.
Transformers the movie, what the hell is wrong with you? But the whole like they waxed like all of Gen 1. There's
Holy
only
crap.
there's only like 3 that make it through.
Right.
Jazz and Bumblebee, you know, the most notable. But everyone else just either disappeared or had this glorious death scene in the movie. I probably got a little misty.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. That was horrific. After watching, you know, the last couple of years of Transformers cartoons, and you get
Right.
attached.
Right.
I mean, I was more upset about Prowl eating shit than I was like Optimus at first, but because you know he gets blasted and flames come out his mouth, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this movie? So I mean, you kind of get like weathered,
Right.
you get tempered,
Right.
But the other one is from the Kingsman.
Okay.
When Merlin steps in the landmine,
Yes.
and and that's why I was singing Country Road, because John Denver is his
Right.
favorite
Right.
American artist, but Merlin knocks off Iggy on the landmine, and just, I mean, that was just, even now just thinking about it, I'm like, Merlin. But I mean, those are probably my two, like, I mean, even like Saving Private Ryan, when what's his name gets the
Right.
the shank through. I mean, because that was just slow, and you're like, oh, like that's more cringy
Right.
than impactful, and that's kind of like where I drew the line of like anything that got an emotional response, not just like, you know, are those two right there. Those are the two emotional ones that I can think of like immediately. Like that's it.
For me, and I know I've told this story on the show before. It is Rogue One.
Oh yes.
So I started weeping the minute they left for Scarif. Like there was.
Oh, so you already knew, you had a pretty good inclination that was Dunskies for them.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, because if they came home successful and heroic, where have they been, right? Like you can do the math. The math doesn't lie.
Math does not lie.
And we
No.
were in. I think we were at the Alamo in Aspen Grove, and there was a guy and like his foreign exchange student friend. Like this guy was from Italy or something like that. But anyway, they're sitting next to us. The non-native English speaker is sitting next to me. And I start sniffling and weeping. And then as that story progresses, I am just out and out bawling. And this guy is like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? He's like, do we need to take you out of here? Like, I have never, he's just talking at this point because I am weeping so loudly. And it wasn't, you know, the premiere or anything, but he's like, are you okay? What's wrong with this woman? I've got handfuls of napkins and Kleenex, and I'm like hiccuping. And yeah. And then when that wave comes out, well, I knew it wasn't going to end happily when they blew up Jeddah. right? Like why?
We see Saul Guerrera, who's
Yeah.
had this huge history in Star Wars.
Right.
We've never seen it, but he's always mentioned. He's always in the background. We get kind of low-hanging fruit in, in Rebels and
Yeah.
Clone Wars and all of that. But to see this legend just get wiped out.
Because why do they open testing the Death Star cannon if they're not going to use it? Right. So, as soon as they blew up Jeddah, I was like, okay, this is, and to this day, we call Rogue One the sadness. I was prepping for Starfest one year when we were watching it, and I cried all over the jewelry I made. So, I cleaned it. I got a Clorox wipe, and I cleaned it. And then we offered that selection at a discounted rate because I cried on it. There was a little sign.
The sadness jewelry.
It's exactly. There was a little sign on the booth that says, "I'm sorry I cried on this bracelet. We were watching the sadness." Yeah, and I cry I don't even know. I cried during Andor because I know what's coming. I weep a little bit while I'm watching.
We'll get to Andor in a second. Because that's actually next. Because you're doing a perfect segue into that.
Yeah. So that's what.
And I have to agree because it feels so like Reach with Halo, and you know the ending. You know how this has to go, and all the preparedness you can have. It is when they're just kneeling on the beach,
right.
And you just see that.
I know that wave, that wall of water, and you're just
oh.
I'll admit I'm a little more into Star Wars than regular people are, and so it's a more emotional experience for me. And all I can think of is that moment is I have completely suspended my disbelief. I'm right there on the beach of Scarif with them, and all I can think in that moment, every time, look, I'm getting weepy now, is oh my God, you're sacrificing so much so that the rebellion can continue. Look, seriously, it is a big emotional situation for me every time.
Anything else? Is that the big one?
There's on the completely other end of the spectrum, I love Downton Abbey, and one of the characters dies during childbirth in Downton Abbey, and she is the youngest of the main characters, and she has her whole life ahead of her, and it's just it's so tragic and horrible, and because that really still happens, women die in childbirth every day, and so because of the way they play the scene and because of the circumstances, you're just maybe not you, but I just am crying.
I've never watched Downton Abbey.
And crying.
I know it's Downton Abbey, but I just like saying Downton Abbey. Someone always would
because you're dismissive of things that you don't care about.
I just did it because it would wind that person up, and she's like, "No, it's Downton Abbey." You mean Downtown Abbey? No, and I'm like, I got you.
And I'm sure there's others. I mean, I know that you spring these on me so we don't have time to think about them and get a more off the cuff answer.
Right.
But
because that's the ones. I mean, you want the emotional ones.
Yeah.
Vadim, you got one?
Terminator 2, Arnold going down.
Oh.
I know why you cry now.
Best answer ever.
Oh my gosh.
I totally on that one. All right. And he's just.
Yep.
Now I know why you cry. You're my hero.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that one's just so harsh. So speaking of Andor, lots of stuff has popped up over the last couple of days. Tales of the Jedi.
I loved that.
Which has been spectacular. I have not finished it. I think I only have 1 or 2 episodes left because the last episode when we got what's her name? Not Yoder.
Yodel.
Yodel, thank you. Yodel's story that crosses over with Dooku.
Yeah.
I have problems with.
I know. I'm telling you to leave that behind, though.
I know, and I am. I'm a little annoyed because it does change a few perspective things in regards to Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it really just seals one of the conversations, which is good, on Grogu.
Yes.
So there is that, but it's still kind of one of those. I wasn't happy.
And it's okay to not be happy, but you have to let it go because we live in the new Star Wars universe now, and it was jarring and upsetting when all of the legend stuff got cut, but we don't live with that anymore.
We don't.
And Dave Filoni did bring a lot of it back.
I am surprised he did that route, though.
Well,
I would like to. I haven't seen any behind the scenes on that yet. All in all, Tales of the Jedi is really good.
it is really good.
The whole, parallels and the stories and past behind Ahsoka and Dooku, because Dooku we really don't have a whole lot on.
No, if you're the level of Star Wars nerd that we are, we knew about Dooku, but that's not necessarily common. Top level common information. It's and I don't think people realized how long he was a Jedi either.
Right. Because he was Yoda's Padawan.
And then he trained Qui-Gon.
Which, oh my God, he's in there for like a minute.
I know, it's great.
It's awesome, but it's like, wait, can we go backwards? I want more of that.
Well, but you and I were talking about that the other day. That's a story that's probably not likely to be told.
No.
Because for broad consumerism, we like cut and dry, very good guy, bad guy stories, and that's not Qui-Gon Jinn's story.
No, Qui-Gon is a very gray Jedi, even though they say that does not exist.
Right.
But he would be my first choice of a gray Jedi.
He's a little closer to the line. Like some would argue that Mace Windu is closer to that line than not. But at the end of the day, Mace is always going to do his duty. The problem with Mace Windu is that he's always going to do his duty literally, and there's no flexibility there, and we see that in Tales of the Jedi as well. There's no flexibility. You're going to do what you're going to do, what we have asked you to do, and that's the end of it, and we're not going to take any circumstances into consideration. But Qui-Gon Jinn is much more flexible, where Mace Windu is much more rigid, and that's where he gets into trouble.
Yep, and that's why he gets into trouble. But when you're dealing with like the Andor side, we're seeing the birth of the rebellion, and I thought we were going to see General Nadine.
Right.
Because there's so many characters that are going on in Andor right now that you're trying to figure out.
You're trying to place them.
Yeah, for like who's in New Hope, who's makes it all the way to Jedi, who are all of the players. Saul Guerrera, of course, is running around
I love
still.
Saul Guerrera so much.
And, we see all of the characters that showed up in Solo.
Right.
So, they are connecting it very intricately, and how they're orchestrating this tapestry is really... Whoa.
What I love the most about Andor is that this is the first time that we're seeing the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that sounds like a dumb thing to say, but stick with me. We came into this story in the literal middle. We meet this dopey farm kid and this bonkers old man and this, gunslinger with a giant dog.
And they go to Tosche Station.
And they tell us, right? They tell us the Empire's bad. Okay, sure, you're the main guy. We believe you. The Empire's bad. But we don't really see, pardon the pun, but we don't see the boots on the ground. We don't get this angle of the Empire until Andor.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. There's just rumors of the oppression of the Empire.
Right.
All of the stuff that they have taken from people.
And not to say that you shouldn't take, that brand of fascism at face value, but this is the first time as the audience that we're seeing it, that we're experiencing...
The flappy pants that they got on, it's like...
Oh my God.
Fly with those fuckers. It's great.
So I just, we haven't seen how the firsthand oppression, we haven't seen, that moment where they make this unilateral decision in that meeting to change all of the punishment, all of the sentencing, just wholesale.
And to even seeing the not only seeing them make the decision, but then the immediate repercussions that we see on Andor himself, as he's just basically just trying to exist.
And I think that resonates a little bit because that kind of thing is happening every day, not
Yes.
just in America, but in the Western world, where someone is caught up in a situation, whether they have anything to do with it or not, whether their involvement is circumstantial or not, and all of a sudden they are imprisoned or beaten to death or
Scooped
whatever,
up in it.
and so that makes that it hits home a little bit more.
It's a bit grittier than you
is.
expect, and of course, the environment in which they are in is probably way more. I mean, I wouldn't say hospitable than what
Right.
current world are. I mean, they're well taken care of. They're fed. They're not.
If you're Imperial, you are.
Yeah.
If you're Imperial, you are.
Yeah.
And this is exaggerating those lines that have been drawn. And what another thing, and you and I talked about this very briefly and then cut it off so we could talk about it here, is that
The fact that there's like no aliens and droids because we're in the core systems.
Yes, because there's no.
The Emperor was all about purification.
He was.
and one race, and they talk about this in the books. It's been prevalent in all of the material.
Humans first. There's no
room for anything else.
aliens in the interior. If they are there, they're subjugated, and we just haven't seen this view before.
No.
We haven't seen the bureaucracy of it before. And Jeremy was saying the other day, he's like, I'm struggling with Mon Mothma because she's so authoritative in the original trilogy. And I was like, well, how do you think she got there?
Yeah.
How do you think that happened?
I'm really digging her story, and my money is her husband sells her out.
I think so too. Although I'm a little concerned about her friend.
Well, and see, he's the one that I thought that was General Nadine, because it's they leave these names kind of like hanging out there.
Right, they
and
use first
ambiguous.
names.
Yes, and I'm trying to like
my
piece
childhood
these.
friend Bob, and
Yes, that could
and
be a
it
nickname
just,
for all I know.
Right. So it's very and what I was struggling to remember in that moment is that what we don't talk about very often is that the rebellion until New Hope is really, until the incident of Scarif even, is really individual
Fractured.
cells. It doesn't unify until right around the time of Luke Skywalker and things like that. And so that's what makes room for Saw Gerrera and his story and how he's so, and that, as much as I love Saw, I got really irritated with him being so combative. Like, dude, you live in a cave. Take
Tony
this,
Stark built
take
this out of a bag
gig.
of
Yeah, take this gig and be helpful instead of angry. And, like.
On the other side of the trilogy, we have the trailer that came out a month ago for Mandalorian Season 3.
Yay.
Moff Gideon has been heavily rumored to have a new suit.
Yes.
He's somehow not in prison. I know, because he's a Moff. I get it, but damn. I mean, that was right out. You have an interesting theory that you think
do.
Moff Gideon is a clone.
I think he is a clone. I think he comes from, because as we saw
Well, everyone thought he was dead.
Yeah. Everyone thought he was dead, and then he showed up again. And we have seen the Emperor's cloning facilities. We are aware that that's what Palpatine was doing. So I think
How did he end up with the black saber? The
I
dark saber.
don't know the answer to that.
Okay. It's very interesting, and I like the theory.
I would say, just offhand, he was part of the Scourge of Mandalore, which
Maybe he got roughed up in that
the
one.
guy
Yeah.
was part of the Scourge of Mandalore, and then Aura Gideon was always a clone. Anyway,
Interesting.
I think he was there, and for my money, that was an emotional scene watching the Scourge of Mandalore last season,
Oh. Yeah, that was...
because we'd never seen that
never
before.
Seen that before.
Yeah, so I think he's a clone. I think
can't
someone
wait.
else's mom is a clone, and
Can't wait. Also, while we were away, the premiere of Black Adam hit. I have not seen it. A lot of our team members have. We have the review up. Fans are of a mixed boat, but of the fans, most of them are leaning towards this is great. The critics, not so much.
I was going to say, I saw a review of it that said this was the most non-entertaining thing that I had ever seen. Like, it was incredibly harsh.
The only takeaway that we've seen so far, and Susie and I were watching this, is just what a class act Pierce Brosnan is.
Right?
So the premiere happens, okay? And
it looked like they were at the Chinese theater. It's changed ownership again, so yes. I don't. It's like GST Chinese theater or something
like that. But it's obviously the big gala.
Right.
There's banners. There's red carpet. Pierce Brosnan suited up, looking suave, looking like he does. James Bond, still with just gray hair.
Yeah.
Sean Connery is just, how do you keep your hair? It's shit like that. But Pierce Brosnan is walking and he stops. And he looks to his right, and over off the side of the barricade are cosplayers there for the premiere. He walks over. He goes out of his way. He walks over and he starts fist bumping people, and he starts signing stuff. He gives the Remington Steele James Bond jaw. As he's signing, he takes selfies with people, and I was just like.
And
this is just spectacular.
I'm sure the fans were calling out to him, but he approached them.
He did.
He walked across the road to engage with people.
He literally just stopped his stride, and then he just kind of looks over and just saw, this cool, elegant slide across the red carpet over to the nerds.
That was amazing.
It was amazing. I had to call that out because it was so nice. I mean, it's one thing for like The Rock to do it,
right?
Because
that's kind of who he is.
That's kind of who he is. But let's face it, Pierce Brosnan, I consider a very serious actor.
Yeah,
very committed to the craft.
There's a difference.
There is,
and one is not better than the other, but there is a difference.
Well, Rock's an entertainer.
Yes,
I would expect if Rock's coming down and those nerds are not paid attention by The Rock, I would be offended. I would be like. Come on, dude. I mean, this is your bread and butter. You've been doing this for decades. But Pierce Brosnan, who's no,
it was great. I love to see that. I love to see, like, even if you don't want to engage with the fans, if you use your acting skills and pretend, and that's one thing. But I can appreciate going back to our first topic today that it can be scary when people approach you suddenly, sometimes in the dark. I get that. And just because you're a public figure doesn't mean you have to hand over your entire life to the public. But these are the people that helped you get to where you're going by buying your movie tickets, by buying your records. So just, if they're not being inappropriate, like, you don't have to submit and sign autographs or take selfies in the bathroom, but if people are approaching you,
the most awkward selfie ever.
Well, I had to. Do you remember the first time you went on the road with us? And I had to tell you, like, because somebody I know was working for me, was wearing a Suzi Q's tag, approached one of the guests in the bathroom and started talking to them, like, while this guy's at the urinal. And I'm like, no, I can't believe I have to tell an adult person this, but you can't ask for interactions while people are peeing. That's so rude.
So weird.
Anyway.
So there you have that. We'll let you know as far as everything else comes up on that side. The trailer that came out that I'm most anxious and fearful of has to be the Christmas Story 2 trailer for HBO
my God,
Max.
I'm so excited.
Everybody is back. Ralphie's back. Mom is back.
I know.
Ralphie's got kids.
I know.
They're going back to Minnesota or Wisconsin. I don't know.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis?
Yeah.
I swear to God, that looks like Minnesota or Wisconsin.
Well, no, because it does.
Edit that the fuck out.
Keep it. Keep it.
Yeah,
keep it. I will give you candy if you keep it.
The Christmas Story 2, the whole crew is back.
I know. I can't wait.
Adults.
And we only have to wait till next week.
We only have to wait till next week. It is on HBO Max.
Yeah.
The trailer is up now. I will include it if you go to 5280geek.com. I will actually have the trailer down at the bottom when I post this. But Ralphie looks good.
He does look good. It's a guy I know was in that movie.
Nice.
He was in the original. He grew up in the Midwest there and played in a school marching band. And so when they're at the Christmas parade before they go into the department store, yeah, Chris is in that. And I think it's so. I know that movie tells the story of a different period of time,
yes.
and not everybody likes it, and it can be viewed as problematic for our current morality. But
That's
love that
was.
movie.
I mean, it's not a jab. That's just how the way things were then. We've educated. We've grown as a society. People are enlightened, and that's the course of life. But to see that picture in that moment in time,
right?
I think is priceless.
I do too. I think it tells such a specific story that even if you're not from that time period, that's what Christmas time as a kid was. Even if that wasn't your literal Christmas time, the
catalog would come in the mail with all of the stuff for Christmas, and you're leafing through, going. I mean, it was a different time, and it was spectacular, and it was awesome. I am wondering if they're going to do some of the same jokes. Because I already saw in the trailer, the Santa pit is still there, and I'm like, and I love that in the trailer, Ralphie's all like, "Don't get kicked in the face."
I know,
and everybody looks like, what are you talking about? Yeah, don't ask.
So my sister was always afraid of characters like that. Like,
right.
I remember a birthday party where the costume character came out and all she did was scream. Like, I've got the birthday picture from that. It was her birthday, but she was just screaming. And Eric was like that too. When he was about 2 years old, we waited forever to see Santa. We got up there. He looked at Santa, looked at me, screamed in my face, and climbed my head. And then we never saw Santa after that.
That's the end of that. And that's how that ended.
Yeah, I really relate to that kids screaming, because that again was part of not only my childhood but part of my adulthood too. And
the best play, and the whole reason behind the story, I think, is probably the best, is the story behind Ralphie and his dad and the relationship, because that is the underlining conversation in the first film.
It is.
And for him to just kind of like, and you kind of see it in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation,
which is my other favorite Christmas movie.
Which is another classic, and you have that conversation between Clark and his dad, and Ralphie's having the internal dialogue about, "Dad, you made this look so easy." And they reference directly to him that he's gone, he's passed, and that's why he's back home.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just kidding. But
I'll give you both pieces of candy if you leave the tears in.
Yeah. I mean, it's very heartwarming, and I'm very excited to see this next week. And I know Guardians of the Galaxy's Christmas special right around the corner, which I will bring in to our next conversation, as James Gunn has been basically appointed the top of the DCU filmverse. So with this in place, should the Snyderverse be restored? Should we let Snyder finish this?
I have no opinion on this, because I don't have any nice things to say about the DC movies. They don't speak to me in any way. I've seen almost none of them. In fact, I have so little interest in it that I kind of watched Suicide Squad on cable one day. So, like, it doesn't, I have nothing to say about it, because it doesn't resonate with me. So
it's very interesting, because there's a lot of people that are now, like, rising up to bring up, okay, so Snyderverse should be restored. Let him finish it off, which I'm of two minds of it, because I don't like how, because the next installment is Batman and Superman together. Superman, Batman. Versus Superman versus Batman, which Superman versus Batman pissed me off, because, let me get this straight, you're going to turn General Zod, who's a badass on his own, into Doomsday.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Well, I that's been my problem with all of this, is that it's been inconsistent. It doesn't seem to follow the source material very well. Like, it doesn't... and again, I could be very wrong, because I haven't seen many of these things. It just doesn't resonate with me. I don't like their choices in actor. Like, I am not a Ben Affleck fan at all.
Batflick?
So I don't, like, it just doesn't resonate with me.
It does. I'm curious to see what they do, because everyone wants to see Legends of Tomorrow get their final due,
right?
Which they never got because they got whacked. Batwoman, they want to see some kind of, wrap up, kind of
well, they're
conclusion. They're not going to get that.
They can a finished movie. They're not going to.
Yeah, they're not going to go back to a TV series.
No,
Let's bring this back.
No.
I'm excited to see what Gunn does based on Peacemaker and that whole series, which it was so much more for a hit for me than I honestly thought it was going to be.
Right.
But
can I say something that's going to be very controversial?
On this show?
I mean, it's going to be very controversial. I think this will resurrect my hater.
Okay.
I think James Gunn, as much as I like him, I think he's kind of a one-trick pony. And that shtick is starting to wear on me.
If you... Because Taika Waititi, I believe the same thing, and I'm almost on the same board with you with Gunn, but I reserve that rate because seeing Gunn's come up through like Slither and working with Lloyd Kaufman and just seeing that the growth that Gunn has had. Taika keeps doing the same jokes and dipping in the same pool,
right?
But to your point, the second Suicide Squad is very reminiscent of Guardians.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Very reminiscent of Guardians. And I will be curious to see how Guardians closes out.
Right.
Because Gunn came back to finish it, and now we're going further. We don't know. There was no mention as far as what Gunn's first role as in charge of the DC Studios and his role as CEO. So it's very reserved yet. But
and don't get me wrong, I'm not over here wishing for him to fail. I hope he succeeds. This is a dream job for anybody who gets it. I hope he can realize that dream and do something great. I just feel, for my money, I just feel like he's a little bit of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I'll be curious to see what his like I said, his first initial decisions,
right,
will set the landscape.
And
it's not like Abrams coming in with more lens flares than we know what to do with.
Right.
Okay, I flushed Star Trek. Here comes Star Wars. I'm gonna get those bitches good. Yeah.
I don't think. And I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna fall back to my standard position. It's really easy for us to criticize here. We've got nothing on the line. We didn't create it. We don't have
dogs in the fight.
We don't have to answer to anybody about it. And I think, in the moment, it might have seemed like a good idea. It might have seemed like a strong story. It might have seemed like whatever. But in the application of it, and then again, as you and I talk about regularly, we struggle with, we want something new, but don't you dare change it.
Don't change it. Look, don't touch.
Right.
Don't taste.
Right. And so,
but don't fuck it up.
So that's a scary position to be in, especially with things like comic book films, Star Wars, Star Trek, because we have bad boundaries as
horrible boundaries
as fans, and take a lot of ownership of these properties when we aren't entitled to them.
Well, speaking of interesting boundaries to go along with this story, the Witcher fans are probably all in uproar as Henry Cavill is leaving the show after the third season. So
isn't that his show?
It is kind of his show.
Don't you need The Witcher to be in The Witcher?
Well, and he has to find that character, and they're saying it has nothing to do with him being signed back on as Superman. He was quoted saying this not that long ago, and I don't know the source, so don't at me.
Do it.
Yeah, do it anyway. His direct quote is, "I've been on a show, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not fans or actively disliked the books and games, even actively mocked the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Fandom, as a litmus test, checks ego and makes all the long nights worth it. you have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy, which I think is a very profound statement given Cavill, who basically came in, he laid down the law with the writers.
Right.
I want this, I want this, I want this.
Right.
They gave it to him, and it was a hit.
So here's where I am. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
But we don't need that kind of gatekeeping.
We don't.
So if you, I think it comes down to the writer's individual choice. If you don't like the source material, maybe it's time to consider a different occupation or a different
write for something
gig
that you like.
Right. Instead of tearing down. But also, that's a dangerous spot for Henry Cavill to be in, because his voice carries a lot of weight. And whether he meant for it to be gatekeeping or not, that's how it's coming out to me. That's how I'm interpreting it. If you're not going to do it my way, you can go, and my way is the only valid way. And so it gets very muddy. I understand it's not a cut and dry situation, but we need to consider how things sound sometimes before we say them.
Right. Because, basically he's saying, and he said this in interviews, it's not for less money when trying out for the role, who slept, in the costume, who gushed about the game in interviews. He didn't quit for lack of money or scheduling conflict. It's the dislike for the source material. And, of course, stepping into his tunic or armor or whatever, I was trying to be clever, Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother, and from The Hunger Games, will be replacing Cavill. So, at least
they're going to recast.
They're going to recast. I'm sure there will be some sort of explanation, maybe. I don't know. He looks different in all the games anyway, so who's to
if
say?
you just recast, I don't think you need to.
I don't think anyone's going to care, to be honest with you. At least we're not going from Henry Cavill to Tom Cruise. That would just be awkward. At least Hemsworth is in the same vicinity as size.
You're so funny.
I know. I would even have been fine with a Skarsgård. Let's get one of the Skarsgårds in there. I've enjoyed the stories for The Witcher. Season 3, I'm looking forward to, but at least it's not because of Superman. So all of the nerds can just calm down. It's not because of anything that, DC imposed on him. This is his own way of bowing out.
Right.
So that's fine.
That's good for you, Henry.
Good for you, Henry. Take a bow. Here's an Oreo. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. That's so funny.
So I have to have your reaction. I know we're getting close to time. Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
We had a regeneration recently. And what do you think?
I don't know. I haven't
really?
seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No, remember, I'm woefully behind because we've been really busy.
Okay.
And I have been watching K-dramas instead of sci-fi, except for we stopped to watch Foundation on Apple TV. Stunning.
Very impressive work on that.
That was so good. But, I'm behind.
There's a new logo for the new Doctor Who by BBC and them teaming up with Disney+. It's kind of reminiscent of a previous Doctor with the new Doctor colors. We'll post that up on this video and the page. I'll be sure to send that to you, Vadim. But David Tennant coming back. I can hardly wait for you to watch it, and you can tell me what you think. Chibnall did not do a bad job.
Right.
He didn't direct it, but he did write it. There's some throwbacks. We get a lot of refreshes, and it's nice to see some older Doctors make appearances. They finally acknowledge a Doctor that we've only seen once on screen, twice actually. But I was very happy about that. But I'll wait for you to see
I need to catch up.
Final topic. And I know this will take... I won't let you go long on this one.
Okay.
But Lord of the Rings.
My God.
You and I have had many... And we can save this for the next time if you want.
No, it's up to you. I'm okay. I have a lot to say about this, but
should we save it? Should we tease this for the next episode?
It's up to you. I will say
Okay.
that this is one of my deep knowledge subjects. Like this is my jam, and I will fight about this.
Okay. So then, in that case, we will save Lord of the Rings versus House of Dragons for the next cast.
That was so boring.
God, wasn't it?
I'm so sorry.
I tried. I really did. And we finally get some action at the end, and what they do, that's their choice.
Well, it's
I know it's
the book.
It's
the book.
We blame the book.
The source material is told as a history instead of a novel, which is what the original book was. It's a whole thing. Like, I can also go on and on about that. It was not the actor's fault.
No.
Not the actor's fault.
Was
Probably not even the writer's fault.
No.
It's just
the way it was.
Just the way it was.
Just how that went.
If you would like to complain about our opinion of Lord of the Rings, you can find Smurf.
Come and get me. So
yeah.
we'll save that. We will save that for next week because that is such a huge topic. Harry Potter fans are bracing for their worst nightmares as a reboot is evidently in the works, which I don't know why. Whatever. And this came out yesterday, and we'll close on this. Carnival Row, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. Great show. Season 2 is finally coming, and it will be the final season.
Okay. I didn't watch it.
It was on Amazon. It was a decent show. You watched it, right? It was very steampunky, fantasy, kind of different creatures. And
I'm aware of it, but it wasn't...
And
Somehow it didn't appeal to me.
Naked all of the time, but
right.
It's fine. But I actually am very excited to see this come back. Especially, it might be a little bit too long since the first season premiered in 2019.
Oh wow! That seems like so long ago, doesn't it?
So freaking long ago. So what they're going to do is try to get everyone involved and hooked back up on this. They're going to be releasing 2 episodes each week.
Oh, wow.
With episodes 1 and 2 arriving February 17th. And then following therein 2 episodes till the end, which will be March 17th with episodes 9 and 10.
Contractual obligation, cha-cha-cha.
My only fear is that they rushed through this because they had really done a well job of crafting this world and the races and how they're coexisting, but they're fighting and all of that. They took time to craft that story. And if they kind of just flagrantly toss it out the window, I'm going to be a little bit more upset with that. I'm excited to see what they do, but if that's the result, I might as well just go back to watching House of Dragons.
Right.
At least that way I got in a good nap.
They started House of Dragons at the wrong period of time. I think they would have had a better audience if they started with Conqueror. That's just me. And there's nothing wrong with political intrigue, but maybe we are experiencing so much real life political intrigue that it's kind of it's hard to be like,
we could use a little detachment.
Right. Oh, you poor baby, your entire government is run on hereditary structure, and none of you have any qualifications to lead, but you're going to get to lead. It's like a little bit. I'm sorry.
In the hands of a 10-year-old.
My liberal slip is showing, but it's hard to get on board with that.
Yes.
The show is beautifully shot, and the characters or the actors are doing an excellent job, but it's just kind of a struggle. Reading the book was kind of a struggle too for me. It was just like
I never finished it. I chucked it. I got like 2-3 chapters in, and I'm like, oh hell no!
Right,
and it went right up on the shelf.
Yeah. Anyway,
the part of the completionist I think in me that all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, and that
right. Sometimes being a completionist is really hard.
Yes. But
sometimes it's really difficult.
It is, but you go in with the expectation of like, okay, this is going to be great, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm having my kidney pulled out through my asshole. No, it's a horrible, it's a horrible experience. Using a whole fist there, Doc? Oh, yeah, I got it. There you go.
I struggled with it being framed as a history. And I like history books. I read history books. But this was a miss. It was a miss.
It was a miss. It's coming back for
anyway.
season 2. Incredibly. So is Lord of the Rings, which we will save for our next go around. Which it won't be as long as this last. 'Cause I don't think we've got. I will be on the road. You won't be.
I won't. I'm home for a minute.
You're home for a minute. I will be going to LA for the Nintendo event, which is a couple of weeks into December. And then New Orleans is calling in January. So I'm not down long.
Nope.
I get a little break. I get the hostess soiree. Get my soiree on. Yeah! And in that bombshell, we shall say goodbye. Give us a like, give us a share. Let everybody know about your dirty little secret that we are. But in the meantime, run fast, laugh hard, and always be kind. Good night.